had a student request that I upload a video about the complexity of the ethics of autoethnographic storytelling. Technically, at my university, autoethnography is not considered research that involves human subjects. It's our own story, and we're allowed to tell our own stories about any other human being without the protections and the ethical considerations that come with conducting interviews or focus groups or other means of where people are not anonymous. Sometimes in autoethnography, we can change names, leave out or tweak details that don't matter a whole lot to the story to conceal an identity. But sometimes we can't. My book coming out talks about being a wife and a mother. So my husband and children are going to be known by my readers. Because of this, we sat down and we talked about what that meant. My boys asked me to write this book. That's how the study began, which meant I knew they were invested. But over the years, as we compiled stories together, I kept asking. And sometimes a story they initially wanted to tell was embarrassing. Sometimes the story felt stale for them, not important, not something they wanted to share. As their mom, I always honored that. And we kept changing what stories we told. But you don't have to be that collaborative. You don't have to do that kind of work. Sometimes people just have to understand, or not, that when you live with others in the world, you're going to be part of their stories, and you're not always going to see yourself in their story the way they saw you. And if people are embarrassed, maybe they should have behaved a little bit better. So I would not worry about offending people in your writing unless you are concerned about that relationship. And in that situation, there's dialogue, there's conversation. If that person you know is a vulnerable person, like my children are, that I care deeply about, then you can talk about what stories to tell and what stories not to. But when it comes down to it, ethically, as far as most institutional review boards that review the ethics of human subject research, your stories belong to you, and you have a right to tell them as you feel them, as you remember them, and with the message you want the world to have about identity and culture and all of the things about being human that autoethnography embraces, explores, and analyzes. That said, remember about reflexivity, to be thinking about wrestling with alternative understandings, looking at power dynamics, looking at situations, looking at the complexity of relationships, to know that you are doing the work of wrestling with your own position in relation to others. Because with that work, autoethnography is not just personal storytelling. It's analysis of culture through the stories that we live, remember, and find important enough to tell.